Hello people, and welcome to another video. This video, as you can see from the title, is the review of the Nissan Magnite, which is a new entry-level small car that's available from Nissan in South Africa. This particular unit that we're going to drive today was supplied to us by Motus Nissan in Centurion, and I will leave some details for Jacques downstairs, Jacques Steyn, who's been really good to us and obviously helping us out to make videos, content like this. The Nissan Magnite, entry-level car. If you look at the level of equipment in this vehicle, you will not believe me that this is an entry-level car. 257,000 bucks, 256,999 is the starting price of this particular unit. It comes with the choice of two transmissions, manual transmission and the CVT, and I have to say I am really impressed with the CVT that's fitted to this unit. The first ever CVT gearbox that I experienced was fitted to a Mitsubishi Outlander, and that was a proper CVT gearbox, the likes you would expect to find in Pistolas and those sort of automatic motorcycles. It's literally just one changing gear all the time, whereas this guy over here, there are distinct gear changes. Now I believe, and I can't find the detail, I believe that it's a 6-speed CVT gearbox or 6-speed automatic for that matter, but CVT obviously being fairly different from a traditional automatic gearbox. This guy's got spunk. It is such an enjoyable little car to drive. I can tell you it puts a massive smile on my face. But let's go through some of the specs and I'll share with you some of the details of what this car actually offers. It is a lot. So the standard car ships with keyless entry. So I've got the key in my pocket and switch on there. And this was the first thing that greeted me and really impressed me, is this little dashboard, which is really just a big iPad, LED screen that's going on in the middle over there, and it gives you all kinds of interesting information. I'm just going to start the car and then we can go run through all the details. That's a little rev counter there with your speed sitting in the middle over there. On the left hand side we've got temperature, and on the right hand side we've got fuel. Now on the multifunction steering wheel over here, we've got a couple of function buttons, an up, down, menu select, back, and then some of these cruise control. I have to say one thing is that the cruise control wasn't really intuitive. You actually switch the cruise control on and off on a button over here and not on the steering wheel as I expected, and then you manage it from here. And to set the cruise control, you have to press this bottom button over here, where nobody ever shows you that you need to. And then once it's set, you can use obviously the resume and the accelerate and decelerate or cancel functions. It just, I don't know, it wasn't very intuitive when I used it. However, let's go through this. So now that I've got the menu selected there, I can push the up and down arrow there. I can press the up and down arrows over here, and that goes through mileage, A trip, B trip, and obviously I'm going in the wrong direction, and range that's actually left on this particular tank of fuel. And then when I press the menu select, it changes, and this is so cool, it changes that entire dashboard, and now I'm in fuel economy and I can actually see the fuel economy that I'm achieving at the moment. And the nice thing is the amount of information that this guy still keeps on there. On the left bottom over here, you still have the range, you still have the mileage that you've traveled, you still have your temperature at the right top and the time at the left top, as well as the fact that the cruise control is currently enabled. And then I can flick through that. I just press the up button there and it gives me a nice little graph of the history on the fuel consumption that we had. Up again takes me back to the same thing. Hitting the menu button takes me to the next menu, which gives a plethora of different metrics. Average speed, what is that? 176 hours. That's obviously we've been driving obviously since last service, I'm guessing, or so last reset. And then you can see the average speed there, 55 kilometers an hour, and our range 182. No, sorry, that's hours again. I don't know what those hours mean. I'll need to figure that one out. Then the menu button again takes us to tire pressure system. This is an entry-level car. It's got a tire pressure monitoring system built into it. How impressive is that? And then of course dimming, and back to the main menu. On the infotainment system over here, it's a complete different story. Switch it on and you're greeted with radio, media, which obviously is the USB, your phone controls, eco driving, we're going to get to this guy just now, all your settings, and then smartphone integration, which offers both Apple and Android options on this particular unit, which means there's no need for a navigation system because it just uses the navigation system that you have on your phone already. Drop your eyes a little bit lower, and there is a charging pad for phones that actually support charging through wireless charging. Little wireless charging pad over there, perfectly situated, so your phone is there, it's out of harm's way. Over here we've got the climate control system, and with little LED screens on the front of them. How cool is that? Air conditioning, obviously circulation or not, temperature control, and controls for where the air needs to go to. Well more than what we would expect in a car of this trim level. Let's go through some of the tech specs of this particular car. The powertrain on this bad boy is a 1000cc 3-cylinder turbocharged unit, and I don't know what the model number for this motor is, but I can tell you that it's fairly capable. Small little unit, fits into a fairly small cabin space, produces 74 kilowatts at 5000 rpm, and on the manual transmission unit 160 newton meters of torque from 2800 rpm to 3600 rpm. On the CVT model, that is 152 newton meters of torque from 2200 rpm to 4400 rpm. So a much wider power range on the CVT than what we get on the manual transmission, and I can tell you, you can feel it. My suggestion, buy the CVT. It is well better than the manual transmission. The 16-inch alloy wheels are standard and are wrapped in 195/60/16 rubbers. One thing worth mentioning about the Magnite is the fact that you cannot fit a tow bar to this car. It is not designed to tow anything. To be honest, that would be a problem for me personally, but I think the majority of people in South Africa really couldn't care that you cannot tow with this guy. 4-door unit, obviously, sorry, 5-door unit, because it's a hatchback, which makes it really popular, and it's a beefy little guy. You can see it's fairly big for what you expect to actually get from this unit. But let's get into the back seat, because I think that is pretty impressive. Now, I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but I'm not exactly short. And I can tell you, I just sat in the front over here, and I typically put the seat fairly far back, and there's sufficient space. I mean, there's gaps between my knees over here and the seat. I'm not going to be bumping the driver all the time. This impressed me. Air conditioning at the back. Who does that? I mean, you're used to seeing stuff like this at Mercedes and BMW and the top level Audis and things like that. You don't expect to see air conditioning for the back or for the passengers in a small car like this. And go down a little bit, and there's a little power socket over here for obviously charging if anybody needs to do that. Something that we found really impressive is the amount of room available in this fairly small cabin. Now, Nissan says it's 700 millimeters of space in between passengers in the front over here, which apparently is best in class for this type of vehicle. What a handsome looking dashboard. I mean, it's fairly cool. I mean, the big screen over there with the LED dashboard, and it's a nice layout. They really, it's a sexy looking car. I mean, after many years of building really boring cars, Nissan is actually starting to catch up, and they're bringing in exciting little cars again, and exciting cars that people can actually get excited about, especially with the trim level that they put into a small entry-level car like this. Power windows fitted to all 4 doors, so for the front and the back. And then obviously if you go to the driver's side, the controls are located there, as well as electric mirrors that's adjustable from inside the cabinet. Let's go take this guy for a drive, and we can comment on performance and braking and all those sort of good things.
A few minutes later.
0 to 100 times on this car is not earth-shattering. The manual transmission is slightly faster than the CVT at 11.1 seconds, and a calendar-shattering 13.4 seconds for the CVT unit that we're driving here today. Having said that, for the driving experience, I take the CVT every single day. All the models are two-wheel drive and obviously front-wheel drive to save cost. The little car weighs in at 1,460 kilograms for the manual transmission and slightly heavier at 1,483 kilograms for the CVT unit. Now, this is fairly heavy for such a small car if you think about it. My 370Z weighs in at probably around the same limit. Having said that, it gives this car a really planted feel on the road. It feels like it's got presence. It doesn't feel like a small car. It actually drives really nice, like one would expect from a much bigger car. The power steering is extremely light given the weight that we're dealing with here. Let's go through the list of standard features which you can find on basically the entire range of Magnite. The full range of this car basically comes fully loaded with the exception of 1 or 2 items. First, there are dual front airbags, obviously safety first. 3 pointed seat belts as standard for both the passenger and the driver. Rear seat belt for passengers, including a middle seat belt, which really makes this a 5-seater. In addition to this, for potential moms, there's Isofix for the baby seat. Anti-lock braking system, or ABS, is fitted as standard on all the models, as well as dynamic vehicle control, which is supposed to help the car steer around difficult objects. If I understand it correctly, this works with the ABS so that you can steer when you are in trouble. Traction control is fitted on all models as standard, as well as hill ascent assist, which holds the brakes when you are pulling off on an incline, just assisting you that little bit. I really thought that was pretty fancy. Alarm immobilizer is fitted as standard on all models. Rear view camera is fitted on all models as standard, and the only feature that's really not standard across all the models is the around view camera, which when you reverse or pull off, and you can even activate those cameras manually when you're just standing still, will give you a view, literally a view of the car from above, that you can see exactly what the obstacles are around you before you start maneuvering. Again, that's features that we expect to find in a premium car that costs 3 or 4 times this money. In addition to that, we also have traditional park distance control system, which gives you an audible warning of obstacles as you reversing the car. What I found pretty impressive, you find yourself in a parking spot and you just want to see what's going on around the car, hit the button, activate the cameras, and find a nice little view of what's going on around you. And obviously that goes off as soon as you start driving again so that it doesn't distract from focusing on the road. Alrighty then, let's do a little driving test. What we're going to do here is a 0 to 60 kilometers per hour pull and back to 0 hard braking. Look at that cool little feature there. When you do an emergency brake or an emergency stop, the hazards actually come on to indicate to other drivers that you are doing an emergency maneuver. In conclusion, we think it's extreme good value for money and it is loaded with safety and other features. Reach out to Jacques, whose details are in the description below, if you would like to do a test drive, and mention that you saw the car on our channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.